Climbers, can artists that have gone viral on TikTok or elsewhere transition into becoming long-term superstar acts? Big machine label group Scott Borchetta says every single TikTok artist that they've signed has not worked. So should you be on TikTok? Well, welcome to the climb. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you get leverage in the music industry. Leverage is what you're going to need to get to the label, to get to the management, to get to the publishing, to get to the booking agent. Everybody's going to come out of the woodwork when you have traffic, and traffic creates leverage. That's why we call it C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. See what we did there? That was a backstream created by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who is also an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Randy Jackson with cuts by,
Yo,
with
dog.
cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Last couple of years, he's had a couple number ones in Southern Gospel as well. And the train keeps on trucking. What I love about my good friend here, Brent, is he teaches songwriters like you to become pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he gives you the opportunity to connect with pros and create and deepen relationships, which is the final sort of step to get you on into the end zone there. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Yeah, it's complicated, but Johnny, he's got the big old brain. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's up?
Do my best to be your hype man.
I appreciate you, man. I can't be my own hype man today. I barely have a voice left after the Queensryche Judas Priest concert. That was epic.
Losing my voice. I
love that you know that, dude. I'm so impressed, man. I'm so freaking impressed. That was amazing.
Well,
Yeah, the PR company that works with Priests, I've worked with them on a couple things before, and so I got hooked up on tickets. And my boy Mike Stone, who I grew up with, taught me guitar back in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, is the guitar player in Queens right now. So it's kind of fun. Got to catch up with an old friend who
nice.
I'm pretty sure I have him and the lead singer from Queensryche corralled into coming on to Song Title Challenge.
Dude, that would be awesome. I would love that.
So cool. And then, and the other thing was, it's so funny, dude. So I went and I took my buddy Brian Smith, he started that band called Here Come the Mummies back in 2000, and they did really, really well. Now he's got this badass Def Leppard tribute band that just is amazing, right?
Hard of Hearing Leopard?
Yes, Hard of Hearing Leopard.
Yes.
And he's just an incredible singer. I was like, hey, man, you want to go to this thing with me? Because I had an extra ticket, and it wasn't really like Janelle's bag. She was like, yeah, I'll pass. And so he went with me. So we get in. It was at the Nashville Municipal Auditorium, and we get in there, and I see Grimy, man, who owns the Basement East, right? Grimy's like, I knew you'd be at the show. And I was like, yes, dude. And I was like, so excited to see him. And then we go, we hit a pee real quick. And so we run out, we go into the band was already on, and we go find our seats. And who am I sitting right next to or standing right next to? Grimy and his buddy from Sony Records who got him in there. It was like, dude, it was awesome, man. Like,
that's great.
Grimy's such a metalhead. It was fantastic. So, and by the way, vulgar display of prowess on both bands. Like Rob Halford, I don't know how old he is. He's got to be pushing 70.
Yeah,
dude, he hit all the notes. Like when I saw him back in the 80s, man, he hit all the notes, and it was like so freaking amazing. It was just so good. So anyway, so today we are going to talk about, there's this article that came out in Digital Music News, and it's Scott Borchetta kind of said out loud what all the labels have been feeling, and a bunch of people are starting to resonate with him on the fact that there's a bunch of we'll call them TikTok artists, but it's not just on TikTok. They're YouTube stars, TikTok stars, whatever.
Mhm,
And the ones who had enough traffic that got really big deals, like so
mhm.
far, absolutely zero of them have worked out. They're bust, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna kind of dig into this article a little bit and dig into what's happening. But my spidey sense goes off and tells me that people are going to use this as an excuse to not get on TikTok or
They're
focus
gonna
on.
take the wrong lesson. No, they're
Yeah,
gonna learn the wrong lesson.
thank you. That's a better way to describe it. That's why you're the
Yeah.
word man. Yeah, I wanna make sure that you understand what the lesson here is, and you're framing it right. So that's
Mhm.
where we're gonna have to that. But before we do that, let's take care of a little business. Join us on the Climb community on Facebook. It's a awesome Facebook group. You can find it at facebook.com/groups/, the Climb community. You have to ask to be let in. We let everybody in. But and we want to hear about your wins, we want to hear about your gigs, we want to hear about everything. You get to shout it from the treetops, but you got to do it in the right place. If you do it in the feed, that's frowned upon in this establishment, and you will be dealt with accordingly. So make sure you put your stuff in the right place. Right? Do we have any wins that we want to talk about there?
We do, and as I'm pulling it up here because I forgot about that. Let me get here. We do have some good ones. All right, here we go. Yeah, we have a lot of comments. Which one am I going to go through? A lot of wins going on in the Climb community. So every Wednesday we post the New Heights segment, which is your chance and your invitation. We want you to come on and let us know how you're doing. And it's if you're looking to make some connections, this is a good way to kind of like humble brag on yourself because we're asking you to. So you're just being a good team
Mhm.
player to tell us what's going on with you, and that can get a little attention. Or you can comment on other people's stuff, and so they go, "Oh, who's that comment on my? Oh, wow, they got some stuff going on too." So it's a good water cooler and chit chat spot. So let's see here. Mike McCorson said on SoundClick charts this week, 6 songs in different genres are doing well. So I'm not super familiar with SoundClick, but Mike is on there and making some stuff happen there. June Biancalana, which is again one of my favorite names of any, let's say the Climber Hall of Fame name.
That's like an
I
artist. That is an artist name. That's just like Biancalana. It's coming to
Biancalana,
town. Yeah.
Biancalana. I kind of want to say Biancalanca, but anyway, Biancalana. I probably have said that. Anyway, I just had a song picked up for a direct to music supervisor pitch for TV reality shows via Broadjam. Also gained some listeners on Spotify. So congrats on that.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Sunday Joe Graham had 3 songs that she submitted to NSI this month were selected as ones to watch. She says it only took 2 years of being a member to make that happen. Know what that tells me? I'm a much better songwriter than I was 2 years ago. And Johnny, you jumped in with some great knowledge on that one, great perspective on it.
I had a comment.
Yes,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course, hashtag vulgar display of prowess and intellectual honesty. You said you could have easily processed it as NSAI finally got smarter. They finally
Yeah.
got their act together to notice the brilliance that's been there all along. But Sunday Joe took the more helpful tack of look how much I've grown, and she's still growing and wanting to get better, and so that bodes well for her future success. So good job pointing that out, Johnny. Uh,
Yeah, and good job and congrats to all those writers that have that stuff going on, including Sunny Joe. I think that's great. So,
yeah.
I
So
love
we
that,
have
man. So
Yeah, we have several more we don't have time to get into. Just too much
no,
winning.
it's
Too much
winning.
winning.
Too
People
many winning.
taking
Too much
steps.
winning going on. That's right. But hey, join the community, guys. This is singers, songwriters, indie artists, indie musicians helping each other out. Getting co-writes together, offering different kind of promo strategies that are working, sharing stuff. It's a very active community, and we want you to be a part of it. Make sure you follow or subscribe to the podcast wherever you are consuming your podcast. Leave a rating and review on iTunes still while we can still do that. And finally, and we haven't checked those in a while. I don't think we got any more, but we need to
I need to go
check that.
check in. That's true. Yeah.
And then finally, tell a friend about it. I mean, if you're doing this, spending this amount of time with us guys every single week, it's for a reason, and you're getting something out of it. If there's something in it for you, tell another artist, tell another writer, tell another musician. Let them know. Turn them on to what's happening, and we want to help them too. That's the best way you can honor Brent and I, right?
That's right.
So let's get into this thing. I had a number of climbers send me this article. So I want to give a shout out to all of them. You know who you are, but there's a bunch of them. So I'm just not going to go down. I didn't compile the list, and I'm afraid if I mention some people and don't mention others, I'm going to come
Right.
off like a jerk, and I don't want to do that. So I just want to thank everybody who they send me this stuff. Right? There's a lot of articles that I get, and I love it. But this is the title of this is in Digital Music News. It came out March 21st, and it says, "Is the music industry wasting money on viral artists?
Mm.
People are signing these artists, and they're screeching to a red light." Last month, big machine label group topper Scott Borchetta splashed cold water on the music industry's TikTok obsession. Now others are echoing Borchetta's statements and questioning the industry's unhealthy penchant for signing viral quote unquote artists. And they put
Mm.
artists in quotes for a reason.
Yeah.
Perhaps the $1 billion question is this: can artists that have gone viral on TikTok or elsewhere transition into becoming long term superstar acts? That is becoming a more serious question as the hangover settles in over a string of knee jerk viral signings. Now, second music industry leaders are, I'm sorry, now seasoned music industry leaders are increasingly saying it out loud. Last month in Nashville during CRS, Big Machine label group chief Scott Borchetta offered a bleak assessment on a frenzy of TikTok signings. Not any of those TikTok artists that got signed to big deals have worked, Borchetta stated soberly. None
Hmm.
of them, not yet. I'm not saying it won't, but none of them yet.
Yeah.
And he said, to be clear, I'm not including Fancy Like, which was a huge moment. Walker Hayes,
Hmm.
God bless him. He's been doing this for a long time, and everybody's very excited about that. But he had been working on that. I'm talking
Mm.
about a brand new artist who got a big record deal because of TikTok in that moment.
Hmm.
Um, More broadly, others are now questioning whether the industry is simply doing it wrong when it comes to viral, again, artists is in quote, when it comes to viral artists. That includes longtime Disney Music Group A&R executive Mia Vukovic, who added to the skepticism on Monday at MuseExpo's Creative Summit in Burbank, California. Quote, "There are so many moments in which my staff will come to me and say, this person's having this incredible streaming spike. Then I'll meet them, and then I'll hear the other songs and think, what happens next? After this wave is done, none of the other material even comes close," end quote. It seems like people are signing these artists and they're screeching to a red light, because perhaps this artist isn't even equipped to have the talent to repeat this event that's happened that got them so big. So I just want to start unpacking this a little bit. There's more to this article that we'll get into, but my fear is that, yeah, people, the wrong lesson's going to be taken from this, that
Hmm.
people are going to begin to think that um, somehow you can get a bad stain on your brand if you have traffic on TikTok
Yeah.
or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And
And
the
I'm hoping that
way
the labels don't take the wrong lesson from it either.
no, they won't. Well, so we'll dig into a little bit more, like
Okay.
on. I think. I mean, here's the big takeaway for me on this. Okay, number one is, remember some climbers are too young to remember this, but remember the .com boom, Brent?
Hmm.
So this is human nature, right? You have a financial entity, like a financial arena like Wall Street, which prices a stock based on the fundamental building blocks and the fundamental KPIs, key performance indicators of each company that's gone public, right?
Hmm.
Like how much profit they made, how what kind of debt they're in. There's all kinds of things that factor in, but it's
Yeah.
very, very nuts and bolts when it comes to valuations. And
Yeah.
there's ebbs and flows, but during the late 90s, we got intoxicated with all these .com companies that were coming out, and there was just boatloads of these companies that were getting, um, first of all, major venture capital money,
Yeah.
right? Like millions of dollars in venture capital money to develop their business. And then they were going public
Yeah.
and they were selling shares of stock for hundreds of dollars per share of stock for a
Mhm.
company that hasn't even made a dollar in profit yet. It was just
Right.
completely based on the idea that this was going to go get like one of the big wrecks, one of the big Titanics at that time was a company called Webvan, which kind of does what Instacart does now, right? Like it
Huh.
just wasn't the right time for it, but they essentially would deliver groceries to your house.
Oh, wow.
And it was this big company, and they had all this infrastructure. Of course, they got to have all these vans in all these cities,
Whew.
and a boatload of money was put into it. It was just a major, major bust because the market wasn't ready to shift there. But
Yeah.
long story short, at the end of the day, if the company if the fundamental value of that company, which is we have a product, we sell this product or service, and we make a profit on that product or service. So there's a market for the product or service. There's people that want to spend money on this product or service, and we figured out a way to solve this problem, create this solution, and make money and also make a profit on it. That's what makes a stock valuable.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not an idea. And the bottom fell out in 2000, and we had the dot-com crash where just all of a sudden the chickens came home to roost. It was
Somebody
false.
looked at the emperor and said, "You got no clothes on.
Exactly right. Yeah.
You're buck
And so I
naked."
feel like that's what's happening here.
Yeah.
Think about it from a label perspective. You If you're Scott Borchetta, what isn't working? Radio.
Yeah. As far as
Everything
breaking
is
new artist.
as far as breaking new artists, radio isn't doing the trick. And, you take a guy like Scott Borchetta, who is basically music industry royalty.
Yeah.
His parents were very successful in the industry. He's very successful in this industry. It's not by accident. This dude knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I put yourself in that position. I mean, everything like think about what you do for a living and how you make your money. And that's dependable. It's repeatable. You count on it.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you're a construction worker and you show up to every day and you've got a hammer and you go to work and you're building houses, and then one day the hammer just stops working, but the nails still need to be pounded. Like, but hammers don't pound nails anymore. Now, what do you do? Like, I mean, that's the kind of rug that got pulled out from underneath the music industry when radio stopped delivering market penetration.
Yeah.
So you're desperate, aren't you?
Mhm. And in their
And
desperation, they turned to something that they did not understand.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I also want to point out that they're describing these artists multiple times. The Vukovic from Disney, Borchetta from Big Machine Label Group, they're describing them as quote unquote viral artists.
Mhm.
So this isn't like an artist that had like one thing that blew up.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's what was it? So let's just break down the fundamentals of this. What was Why were they even attracted to it to begin with? Because their normal pipeline, the label's normal pipeline isn't working, right?
Right.
What was it that attracted them to that artist? How did they get on the radar screen? Traffic,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
A boatload of traffic, I'm sure. And if you, by the way, I recommend this, go to any major label, Warner, Sony, Universal, click on the artist roster and start clicking on the artists that you don't know,
Yeah.
the ones that aren't famous. And you're going to find a massive amount of those are TikTok and YouTube stars,
Hmm.
right? Or they're supremely talented artists. And if you don't know who they are, there's a really good chance your socials are probably better than theirs.
Yeah.
Um, I'm afraid that artists are going to look at this and just be like, TikTok's bad.
Yeah.
This is bad. I don't want to be seen as like a joke, right? I want to be taken seriously,
Mhm.
and what was attractive here was the traffic.
Well, it's kind of the same concept as American Idol, The Voice, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that has about the same track record as TikTok as far as breaking artists. I mean,
I
it's a little bit
think you're
better. You
right.
have a Carrie Underwood, you have a Kelly Clarkson,
Yeah.
a few Daughtry, you have a few that
Scotty McCreery. Yeah.
Scotty McQuarrie, yeah, who's kind of back, baby. It's almost like a fresh start for him,
Uh
because he
huh.
feel like he kind of went away and now he's back stronger than ever. And it's yeah, Miranda Lambert was on Nashville Star the first season, but so
Yeah.
that actually has a better record. But anyway,
Yeah.
still not a good track record of making stars. Well, they didn't make the stars, but that's probably getting
And
there.
and yeah, so they're just trying to find talent, but it's not necessarily the criteria for an artist, you
Yeah.
know? And so well, let's go down a little bit more in this article here. So according to Vukovic, who's the A&R guy from head of A&R at Disney, the current process for signing artists has shifted dramatically over the past few decades. And the current process often overlooks critical aspects related to long-term sustainability.
Hmm.
In the past, you had artists that were getting signed regionally because they were the biggest thing in their city. Uh, the Disney A&R continued. They have proof of concept. Jane's Addiction and Guns N' Roses were the biggest bands in Los Angeles. They
Hmm.
were selling out multiple nights and they were unsigned acts. They had been refining their songs and their talent for years. They'd played hundreds of shows and then they got signed,
Hmm.
right? Contrast that to today when an artist is blowing up on TikTok and that triggers a major label bidding war. That shift alone offers one possible explanation for why catalog artists are dramatically outstreaming contemporary acts. I mean, that's an interesting take on it. I don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about that, but Vukovic further deconstructed viral, quote unquote, by pointing out that the sources of the viral surge are often unclear.
Mm.
That's a critical problem, especially given the difficulty of determining if there's any there.
Yeah.
And that's a specific to theirs. Okay. So you don't know where it's from, Vukovic continued. Spotify supports a lot of independent acts and shows the power that they have through playlisting. People get a shot, but you really have to vet them out and see for yourself if this is real. Does it speak to me? Does it feel like a real artist? Is this
Hmm.
somebody that can draw people and sell tickets?
Well, we've talked
Uh,
about that before. I mean, did you happen to land on a very popular playlist? Or are they going streaming it from your page? They're looking for you and they went to hear your songs. Those are
yeah,
very different things.
yeah. And I think so. Now, what are they doing? So they go and they do the intoxicated thing first. The hangover sets in, and now they're going to go. They still don't have a dependable, repeatable pipeline for breaking
Okay.
artists.
You can be a seat filler at the Grammys and a lot of people are going to see your face. That is
Yeah,
not why they're tuning in.
that's right. There you go. There
And
you
actually,
go.
a lot of them aren't tuning in anymore anyway, but you get my
But
point.
you wanna be you listen, it has to be real, like, you want like, it's still going to be traffic. Traffic still has to be king, and
Yeah.
you still need to absolutely, unequivocally be on TikTok and be on YouTube and create traffic there, and that's how you're going to get to your audience, first of all, label
Yeah.
or no label.
Right.
You need to make that happen, and it is not going to be. Um, it's not going to put you in a bad light. It's not going to take any of the weight off of your brand, or it's not going to make you look like a cheese ball or anything like
Mhm.
that. I think real artists are real artists, and the labels are going to know that. And if you can create consistent traffic, because what's the point about being viral? Is they got like one thing that happened.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you have one thing that happened and that gets you a lot of attention, but then you've got like 3 or 4 other songs that come out that maybe didn't go viral, but have like healthy traffic
Mhm.
and it's building, then, that's that's the deal.
Well, I mean, a viral TikTok song, whatever, or a YouTube, that's not a business.
Yeah.
That's a thing that
It's a
happened.
lottery ticket winner.
It's a thing that happened. It's different than a business. It can be a wonderful thing, and you do want to get those numbers up and stuff. But I think what we're getting at is that's not enough. That's not a business. You still have to build a business if you want to sustain long term success.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Label or no label.
I don't want anybody like just misconstruing this to feel like it's gonna because I still have that. Actually, I just had this with a an artist that I think is gonna be a new client of mine
Hmm.
who was referred to me by a dear friend of mine who's an incredible artist and producer and writer
Hmm.
and who I've worked with. And this particular we're just sort of it was our first meeting and we're just getting to know one another and I want to know what he wants to do and to see if there's a way that we can add value to his journey. And
Hmm.
one of the things that he used to do, so this is artist uh, now has a house in Nashville, but just recently bought a house in Nashville. He's mainly from Orange County, California.
Hmm.
Okay. And he's doing his own artist thing, but also like right before COVID, he had built up this like really awesome Neil Diamond tribute thing
Okay.
because he can sing the fire out of some Neil Diamond and sound like him, you
Hmm.
know? And so here's the thing, it was creating cash flow for him,
Yeah.
you know? And uh so what I'm about to describe to you, to be clear, is where people who understand broadcast blur into digital and they think it has the same kind of powers because
Yeah.
I've got and I've told this to this artist. I said, You have an emotional bank account as well as a monetary bank account.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a long runway to get you going on your personal brand name.
Hmm.
And if your emotional bank account keeps getting drained because you're putting out all this money and it's not uh, getting anything in return, our relationship is going to be short and you're
Yeah.
not going to give it the time that it needs to do that. And so I suggested when he showed me this Neil Diamond stuff, I said, bro, like you could make bank on this. An idea of the kind of bank. So this is uh, my buddy Brian Smith, who I went to the concert with last night. He started Here Come the Mummies back in like 2000, right? Which was this huge national act that just they made everybody in that band made like six figures
Nice.
just going around, doing that stuff. And so he's an amazing singer, amazing musician, and now he has a Def Leppard tribute band here in Nashville, right?
Hmm.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Nashville, on Broadway, those you get paid a really ridiculously low base amount. If you're in one of the original sort of honky tonks on Broadway, like the Stage or like Tootsie's, you're getting $50 a man for a 4-hour set. That's your base pay plus tips. Now they make a boatload of tips during the summer. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So the newer corporate stuff that's come in, like Dirk Bentley, like Old Red from Blake Shelton and
Hmm.
Luke Bryan's club, and that they pay a higher amount. They'll pay like a $700 base pay for the band to do a 4-hour set, plus tips. But still, that's it's still pretty freaking low, right?
Yeah.
Um, because they know they're going to get a lot of tips. But
Hmm.
uh, Brian comes on, and so there's this new sort of area that's just been built up called Fifth and Broad. Did you ever see that when you were here in town? Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's
It,
where the
it
old convention center used to be. It's like tucked in
yeah,
there. Yeah.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
So there's like a boatload of restaurants and some shops, and there's like this amazing live stage outside facility upstairs on the roof.
Oh, cool.
Huge stage. And it can be, I mean, you can put National Act on there. And I don't know how many people you can fit on that roof, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Man, the first time he went in there with the Def Leppard thing, they paid him $1,800, bro.
Hmm.
And they weren't even charging a cover.
Wow.
And I was talking about it last night. I'm like, dude, that's incredible. Because yeah, that was the first time. The second time we got more. I'm like, shut the front door, dude. You're making that kind of base pay on Broadway.
Yeah.
That's more almost triple what the highest paying clubs are doing. for that. So it's cash flow, right?
Mhm.
And so with this guy, this artist doing the Neil Diamond thing, I'm like, dude, that's cash flow. And I said, here's the most important thing. Do you love to do it? Does it scratch an itch? He's like, dude, I have the best time doing that. I'm like, then let's do that first and
Mhm.
just get some money going on that. Because if you're offsetting even just a little bit of what you're going to be paying me and what you have
Yeah.
to pay for ads to get the kind of market penetration that we need, you're going to feel better about it.
Yeah.
And at worst case scenario, it's going to make your runway a lot longer.
Yeah.
You're going to give
It
yourself more time. It's going to fulfill your emotional bank account. And best case scenario, we build it up to this killer thing. And you're doing so. My buddy who produces him
Mhm.
and writes with him, like, and it might have been because I had this conversation yesterday. It might have been just a bad day for my friend who turned me on to this artist or whatever. But he just kind of was like turned off by. He's like, I don't know. Like he just sort of felt like it's going to be bad for the brand. And I'm telling the artist, I said, who the hell's going to associate you with that Neil Diamond tribute thing?
Yeah.
It's not gonna cheapen you. It's just creating cash flow
It's a different
that
name,
can
it's a different brand. He doesn't go by his own name on there, so it's
exactly.
okay.
And so but if you were doing that on TV or on a broadcast thing,
Mhm.
you're seeing your face, it could happen. I told the artist, I said, "You're gonna need to have 2 separate social media accounts, one for the
Mhm.
diamond thing and one for yourself." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I know that." And I'm like, "I don't think you have anything to worry about. I don't think it's gonna flood over, like, nobody's gonna know." And you can't sell, like, your artist crap at the Neil Diamond thing.
Right, yeah.
You have to keep them separate.
You have to keep them separated.
But it's all about being able to afford to create that traffic and doing that on TikTok, doing that on YouTube, and understanding that it's about traffic is I think it's the hardest lesson for the industry pros to get their head around,
Yeah. I
you
think,
know?
I'm thinking the other night when we went out to see that show, um, eh, there are a lot of kinda TikTok famous artists that performed that night,
Mhm.
and, it seemed like every artist was like millions of streams and either like,
Oh,
"This is
yeah.
my new single," and, like, everybody had a single and millions of streams, and some of them I knew who they were, and some of them I didn't, um, but and some of them were way more polished than others. Some you
Mhm.
go, "That's a pro." The other one, like,
Yeah.
they got a song or 2,
Yep.
like, you can tell, like, I don't think they've been playing out much. Now, granted, they're young, and we've been in COVID for the last couple of years. They probably haven't had as much opportunity, right?
Good point, good point.
So some grace there, but you could tell a difference in some of those artists that played. You're like, "Okay, you got millions of streams, but I can tell you're not doing a bunch of live shows." Again, maybe
Yeah.
not their fault, COVID, that kind of stuff happens. It's the world we live in. But, it's like if somebody goes and what if they check out more than just your TikTok and they go to a show and they go, "Whoa, they got some work to do there." Just the
Yeah.
between the song banter, just owning the stage presence, all that kind of stuff. It's a different thing. And are you selling stuff? Right? Are you
Yeah.
like, even if they're like, well, yeah, we've learned that just being viral and having millions of streams doesn't mean you're going to be a successful artist. Okay, but it may get you in the door. It may go where it's not a deal closer, but it might be a door opener, right? Going, oh,
Yeah.
they got those kind of numbers. Let's look more deeply. And you're like, well, yeah, but I'm pulling this much on merch. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's real.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, and I think, and the other part of that too is I feel like they got some attention from something that went viral, and
Mhm.
then some of them are really smart at this. Like they just they get that wind in the sails, and then they know how to they make it happen for this next song or this next song, and they
Yeah,
use that to get some
they're working.
collaborations, and they're doing it. And
Yeah, they're
and then
working.
yeah, and you get some love on Spotify, so then you keep getting on editorial
Mhm.
playlists and things of that nature. But um you don't, but nobody's they're also not branding either, like, at that level, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's a song that went viral,
Yeah,
and, you're not necessarily associating it with a specific artist,
yeah,
you know? And again, because there's no There's no market penetration that's really happening. It's like
Mhm.
a lot of streams
One thing that
or
was
a
interesting
viral video.
yeah, one thing that was interesting to me the other day is, at the show, Thomas Mack came out,
Mhm,
and I was like, "Oh, I know who that is," right? I couldn't tell you
mhm.
any of his songs, but, I'd see him on Instagram at the 615 House or TikTok, and he's got a really engaging personality. He's funny. He's the guy that does, like, "Let's see if we can make this song country." He'll sing,
Yeah,
something, make it really country, and he's got a good sense of humor, and he's just a likable dude. I don't know him,
yeah,
but, he was there. I was like, "Oh, I know who that is." Couldn't tell you any of his songs. But then, there's another artist that sang, which I didn't know her at all. The name kinda rang a bell, but then she played, like her 2nd song or 3rd song. I was like, "Oh, I know that song. I've heard that several times on streaming. I like that song." I
yeah,
had no idea who
yeah.
she was.
That that
So it's
I
interesting, like, you got the 2 ends of it. They're both apparently getting, you know, one I know Thomas Mack has a boatload of TikTok, followers and views and all that stuff. The other artist, I don't know, but I heard her stuff on some streaming playlist, and that song stuck out to me because it's a really good song. It's kind of interesting. They're coming from different angles.
Yeah, yeah, and they build up that audience, and also keep in mind too, like when we're talking about TikTok, and also currently Instagram Reels, right? They're getting a
Hmm.
lot of algorithmic love
Hmm.
because they're early.
Yeah.
But then that algorithmic love ultimately will go away,
Hmm.
right? You're not going to reach everybody organically that you're reaching now. They're going to throttle that down.
Yeah.
So you have this audience that you've worked to build, but if you don't realize that you're not reaching everybody when you post, you're going to need to think about it differently, aren't you?
You're gonna
And
need an
and
email list.
yeah, and push out content. Like
Yeah.
there's you can't. We talked about this before. Like even if you're a friggin' superstar like George Michael, who by the time he released his second indie record after leaving Wham,
Hmm.
had sold 40 million records,
Yeah.
and the label stepped on that record and wouldn't promote it, right? Do you know that story?
I think you've told on here before, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's George Michael had a key man clause in his contract with
Hmm.
Walter Yetnikoff. George Michael was signed to CBS Records, not to Sony.
Yeah.
Okay, and Walter Yetnikoff was the president and I think one of the last executives who was just truly in awe of artists.
Hmm.
So he wasn't like a hard ass. He was a very shrewd, very good businessman, but he would fight for artists and get them what they wanted and not just dollars and cents the crap out of it. And if it didn't look good on a spreadsheet, he's going to say no.
Yeah.
And so therefore, a lot of the artists that were signed under that CBS umbrella, like Springsteen, in in George Michael was one of them, had key man clauses. If this guy goes,
Hmm.
my contract's null and void.
Yeah.
Okay, because then they don't feel like they're going to get that champion at the label that they had. And so CBS gets bought by Sony. Walter Yetnikoff goes. Tommy Mottola comes in. Who's a
Mm.
total hard on, right? And he's just like, he's all he wants to do is impress the Japanese. And George Michael, that second album, Listen Without Prejudice, Volume One, it was his masterpiece. It was everything had come to this point. It was just so beautiful. And that first song, Praying for Time, was so heavy on the lyrics that he creates arguably the first lyric video.
Hmm.
And it's pissing Tommy Mottola off because he wants George in there shaking his ass in the jeans with the leather jacket and
Yeah,
and
the
and looking
sunglasses and
cute
the
and yeah. And so the point being, they squashed that record. That record should have sold, I mean, more than Faith sold.
yeah.
And it only sold like 8 million copies, which is like, oh, you're like, oh, poor guy. But that's a
Hmm.
huge disappointment compared to what happened. Why did it only sell that? Because the label didn't promote it.
Yeah.
Because Tommy Mottola was like, you're going to be like my bitch, or I got 500 artists. You got one career. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he just went head to head with George, and George didn't give a damn. I mean, if you go back and listen and watch that Freedom 91 video,
Mhm.
that's George giving the middle finger to Mottola.
Yeah.
because he's like, "Oh, you want beautiful people shaking their butts in the music video? Okay."
Here's Cindy
And so
Crawford.
he hired all his supermodel friends to go and lip sync the songs.
Mhm.
And then he blew up the jukebox that was in the Faith video, and
Mm.
he lit and he blew up the guitar that was in the Faith video, and he lit the jacket he was wearing in the Faith video on fire.
Yeah.
And he's like, here's what I think your idea is. But he just didn't give a crap, you know.
Yeah.
But that label had the chance to squash that, right? Because he didn't get the market penetration,
Mhm.
like on
Right.
purpose, you know. So I don't know. I think that's what we need to focus on. I need to focus on market penetration. And if you can get that on TikTok, you need to be on TikTok. It's a place where you can get that hook to happen and to drill that into people's heads. Don't have a bad attitude about this article if you hear about this. It's true that the labels made a mistake, which seems unfathomable. It's just as silly as, why would Wall Street ever, why would anybody pay $400 for a share of stock from a company that hasn't even made $1?
Right, yeah.
Right? Forget about being profitable or not. There's no cash flow. It's
Mhm.
an idea,
Right.
right? It's a well-funded idea that has zero leverage in the marketplace right now. And that's what they're doing here at the label thing. So don't let that dissuay you. Focus on that traffic, man. Focus on creating traffic on YouTube, creating traffic on TikTok, and focus on being an artist. If you're actually an artist, if you've got the salt, if you've got what it takes, you're going to need that traffic no matter what,
Yeah.
you know? So that's all I got to say about
It's a
that.
door opener, not a deal closer.
That's right.
It's not a career
So
maker, but it's a some
it's not a career breaker
yeah.
either, you know. I mean, so again, like with the cover thing, just one final point. Like I was talking about this with that artist yesterday, and I, I, you know, some of the broadcast people, right, will say, "Well, I just don't know about the cover thing. It's, you know." If you feel like you could be branded wrong, you don't want to be known as a cover artist. And then
Mhm.
I just said, "Hey, man, what about the Beatles? You know,
Yeah.
first 5 records were 50% covers. Everybody forgets that.
Yeah.
You know, Stones, first 2 records, all covers except for 3 songs. Led Zeppelin, first record, 50% covers. Like, this is not reinventing the wheel here. And nobody thinks of them as cover artists. Why? Because they stopped doing it and then went on to their own stuff. But
It was
that was
that
the crowbar into
stage
the
1 rocket.
marketplace.
Stage
Yeah,
1 rocket,
exactly.
right?
So own it. Eat
And
that crap for breakfast.
and then when you get big and you're doing like Kelly Clarkson does karaoke, then
Yep.
it's a cool
Yeah,
thing. Like, "Oh,
that's
she's doing these other songs."
exactly right. Exactly right. So, you know, be that artist, do what it takes to be that artist. And if you blow up on TikTok, you're going to get all the attention that you want, and they're going to see that you're an artist because it'll be clear. That's not just
Mhm.
a one-hit wonder kind of thing. So anyway, guys, if you want to consult with me about that, we're available for consultation. Hit me up at info@daredevilproduction.com. Put consultation in the subject line. We will absolutely get together on that, and I can help you kind of craft your how to spend your budget, and just tell you the best place to do it, and help you just put together some kind of strategy that's going to give you the market penetration that you need. And download the free PDF informational guide here. Whoever owns the traffic rules the road. It's at giftfromjohnny.com, JOHNNY, giftfromjohnny.com. Absolutely free. Just tell us where to send it and we will shoot it out to you. But this is going to help you untie that knot of broadcast and understand the difference between digital and broadcast to get you answering or asking the right questions so that you get the right answers. All right. This podcast exists because we want you to win, so keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.